Today we're reading references out of As Bill Sees It to unity. This would be part 2. On 155, built by the one and the many. We give thanks to our Heavenly Father, who though so many friends and through so many means and channels has allowed us to construct this wonderful edifice of the Spirit in which we are now dwelling. This cathedral, whose foundation already rests upon the corners of the earth. On its great floor, we have inscribed our 12 steps of recovery. On the side walls, the buttresses of the AA traditions have been set in place to contain us in unity for as long as God may will it so. Eager hearts and hands have lifted the spire of our cathedral into its place. That spire bears the name of service. May it ever point straight upward toward God. It is not only the few that we owe the remarkable developments in our unity and in our ability to carry AA's message everywhere. It is to the many, and indeed, it is the labors of all of us that we owe these prime blessings. 162. Let's keep it simple. We need to distinguish sharply between spiritual simplicity and functional simplicity. When we say that AA advocates no theological preposition except God as we understand Him, we greatly simplify AA life by avoiding conflict and exclusiveness. But when we get into the question of action by groups or areas, and by AA as a whole, we find that we must, to some extent, organize to carry the message, or else face chaos. And chaos is not simplicity. I learned that temporary or seemingly good can often be the deadly element of the permanent best. Excuse me, I read that wrong. I learned that the temporary or seemingly good can often be the deadly enemy of the permanent best. When it comes to survival of AA, nothing short of our very best will be good enough. 198. Tell the public. AAs of world prominence sometimes say, if I tell the public that I am in Alcoholics Anonymous, then that will bring in many others. Thus they express the belief that our anonymity tradition is wrong, at least for them. They forget that during their drinking days, prestige and the achievement of worldly ambition were their principal aims. They do not realize that by breaking anonymity, they are unconsciously pursuing those old and perilous illusions once more. They forget that keeping one's anonymity often means a sacrifice of one's desire for power, prestige, and money. They do not see that if these strivings became general in AA, the course of our whole history would be changed, that we would be sowing the seeds of our own destruction as a society. Yes, I can happily report that while many of us are tempted, I have been one, few of us in America actually break our anonymity at the public media level. 207. The fellowship's future. It seems proved that AA can stand on its own feet anywhere and under any conditions. It has outgrown any dependence it might once have had on the personalities and efforts of a few of the older members like me. New, able, and vigorous people keep coming to the surface, turning up where they are needed. Besides, AA has reached enough spiritual maturity to know that its final dependence is upon God. Clearly, our first duty to AA's future is to maintain its full strength, what we now have. Only the most vigilant caretaking can assure this. Never should we be lulled into complacent self-satisfaction by the wide acclaim and success that are everywhere ours. This is the subtle temptation which could render us stagnant today, perchance disintegrate us tomorrow. We have always rallied to meet the transcend failure and crisis. Problems have been our stimulants. How well, though, shall we be able to meet the problems of success? 220. In partnership. As we made spiritual progress, it became clear that if we ever were to feel emotionally secure, we would have to put our lives on a give and take basis. We would have to develop the sense of being in partnership or brotherhood with all those around us. We saw that we would need to give constantly of ourselves without demand for repayment. When we persistently did this, we gradually found that people were attracted to us as never before. Even if they failed us, we could be understanding and not too seriously affected. The unity, the effectiveness, and even the survival of AA will always depend upon our continued willingness to give up some of our personal ambitions and desires for the common safety and welfare. Just as sacrifice means survival for the individual alcoholic, so does sacrifice mean unity and survival for the group and for AA's entire fellowship. 229. Day of Homecoming. As sobriety means long life and happiness for the individual, so does unity mean exactly the same thing to our society as a whole. Unified we lived, disunited we shall perish. We must think deeply of all those sick ones still to come to AA. As they try to make the return to faith and to life, we want to find everything, we want them to find everything in AA that we have found, and yet more, if that be possible. No care, no vigilance, no effort to preserve AA's constant effectiveness and spiritual strength will ever be too great to hold us in full readiness for the day of their homecoming. 249. God's gift. We see that the sun never sets upon AA's fellowship, that more than 350,000 of us have now recovered from our malady, that we have everywhere begun to transcend the formidable barriers of race, creed, and nationality. This assurance that so many of us have been able to meet our responsibilities for sobriety and for growth and effectiveness in the troubled world where we live will surely fill us with the deepest joy and satisfaction. But as a people who have nearly always learned the hard way, we shall certainly not congratulate ourselves. We shall perceive these assets to be God's gifts, which have been in part matched by an increased willingness on our part to find and do His will for us.